what does it take for us as a society and as organizations and to be collectively intelligent instead of collectively stupid, which is what's happening now. We're all probably wanting to save the planet. Everybody probably were unanimous, and yet somehow we're proceeding in a direction that is going to trash the planet. And how can that be? So I have some answers about that, and I have some answers about what to do about that. And I'm doing a lot to bring those forward. We have a nonprofit organization called the Center for Wise Democracy. And so anybody can look it up. It's called, wisedemocracy.org. We live in a kind of a paradigm that is sort of a Newtonian paradigm where I am separate from you and I'm separate from nature, and the process of thinking that we use is one where I maximize my own self-interest. Our system is designed for that to be the case. I mean, I actually want to serve life and I want to help other people, but our system kind of won't pay for that. It'll pay for me to work on my own stuff and maximize my own well-being. And so a lot of the patterns of thinking that we're in are really structured by our system. That our system will have us vote, for instance, which is me choosing among, or not actually deciding among given options. And I use judgment. And I think a lot of people know that judgment and creativity don't go together. So we have a system that is kind of designed for self-interest and judgment and competition. We compete in economics, we compete in politics, we compete in the judicial system. So that's the design of our system. It's not who people are. Human nature is bigger than that. And so it's really kind of easy. We just need to tweak the system a little bit so that it draws out different aspects of me and you, where we're serving life and we're helping one another, and the community, we're building community, and community supports we support each other, and we feel connected to life and to the seventh generation of people and the planet, and we're not separate. So, to me, there is a systemic effect that we tend to ignore, and if we notice it, we get afraid. We think, oh, what can I do about the system? But actually, we can do a lot about the system, and if we see it, we can tweak the system just a little bit, and we can change everything. How we as a society come together, and how we make collective choices, where we create choices together that work for everybody. And to me, this is not idealism, this is realism, because as I was saying earlier, the idealism is to think that our current system that we can survive with our current system, and we can't. So the change is essential, and here's a way to do it, and I want to bring this forward. To me, we need a quality of thinking that where we're facing the really important problem, and we're being creative, and we're following our heart, and we're coming up with answers that we're excited about and that work for everybody. And that seems to me that's the key to democracy. It's the key to collective intelligence. It's the key to a lot. And I've given that name, the name for that kind of thinking, I've given it choice creating. And how do we facilitate choice creating so that all of us are working together and making a society that we're all proud of and that works and that we want to live in. Well, okay. So how we do it is part of that answer is that I've been teaching a way of facilitating called dynamic facilitation for 23 years or something, maybe more. Yeah, more. And that works. It's a way of standing in front of people and creating a zone of thinking where we draw out this quality of thinking that I call choice creating. And it's a way of organizing the room and to be kind of in a U where everybody's facing 4 charts. And the charts serve the purpose of assuring safety for everybody and holding a space for whatever bubbles up from anybody. So anybody in the audience can be just themselves, and that they can just speak naturally, even if they're being angry or resistive or judgmental or whatever. We're going to create a space where whatever they say contributes and builds the sense of choice creating. So that's one how do you do it, is dynamic facilitation. And it's kind of like creating a zone of thinking where whoever comes into that zone in a meeting begins to think at this higher level. So we don't have to educate everybody how to do it. They can just care and talk, and we're going to hold the space so that everybody in that zone is thinking and talking at a high level. And to do this for a society, we just need to make that zone of thinking bigger than a room. We need to make it really big so that whoever's in that zone for the city or the country or the world is in a conversation. If we're in that conversation, we can establish it with the same principles so that whatever bubbles up, whatever naturally occurs, it turns out as an asset that's helping. So, and we use a wisdom council process to do that. And that's a simple thing. We just randomly select, pure random, 12 people from the voter registration rolls, or from just somehow we get 12 random people. And they come together and they are assembled together in that room now because they're random. And because we facilitate them using dynamic facilitation, they come up with a unanimous perspective that they're all excited about. And they were being natural and facing really important issues and being creative together. And so they speak. They come in front of an audience to the rest of us, and they speak with the voice of all of us. Only it's a wise voice. It's a hey, here's what we need, here's the problem, here's where we need to, what we want to have happen, and here's how best to get there. And we've done enough of these to know that the rest of the room, whoever's listening, is pretty much going to say, yeah, that's good. Why don't we do that? And so we have kind of a way to take a very large system of people and have them all be nodding and thinking together in this creative, collaborative way. Even though we only randomly selected 12, if we can get everybody to pay attention, we've pretty much got everybody in one conversation, and we're adding to it, but we're kind of coming together as a whole. And we have some experience with this. Just this week, there's a Wisdom Council statewide in the state of, in Austria, the state of Vorarlberg, which is, I think, one of 9 states. Another example that we were talking about earlier is really the only example of a national Wisdom Council. And it's actually kind of small scale because it happened within the Department of Life in Austria, in Vienna. And and I've heard this secondhand. So basically what happened is that the group came up with the conclusion that really, basically what they're saying, well, why are we subsidizing products, agricultural products like tobacco, I don't know what they were, but that we don't want, that are addictive, that are harmful? Why would we ever do that? And of course, that's really commonsensical, but it's also something that no staff person in the Department of Life could actually bring up, and it's certainly not something that a politician can bring up. And it's like an out-of-bounds topic. So here, but the people can come together and be commonsensical and just say what's on their minds and hopefully infuse. Now, it turns out that this was not presented to the general public. This was presented to the to the. I don't know who it was. I know that the department people were all there, but anyway, I think it gives an idea of the potential of how this can really raise the elephant in the room and just bring it into bringing people's attention to it and get some actual change to happen if it had the proper amount of publicity and attention and so forth. And this is the kind of change that we are desperately needing. Well, I think the Wisdom Council process should be implemented at the local level and at the regional level and at the state level and at the national level and at the global level. I think we have issues like climate change that require a global Wisdom Council. They require humanity to come together and say, what the heck are we doing? And let's not do this. And let's make collectively intelligent choices. It's one thing for countries to negotiate goals or to set up a carbon tax or to divest from oil companies or whatever, but none of these are actually going to solve the problem. What would solve the problem is if we all figured out together that we want to save the common resource. I think a good example for me is the fishermen in the North Atlantic. I saw a video somewhere, I'd like to find it, but of this fisherman saying adamantly, I need to get government out of my way so I can go out there and fish. If government would just get out of my way, I can get out there and fish and feed my family. And he was angry, and this was in a community meeting or something. Well, that's what happened. They all did that, and then the fishery collapsed completely. But then there was a mind shift for all the fishermen that were left. They all came together and began to become stewards of the fish resource and starting to work as a whole to make sure that resource is protected. That mind shift, that collective mind shift, is what we need to do around all of our commons. And that needs to happen at the global level, and it needs to happen at the And with the Wisdom Council process, we can have that mind shift happen before the collapse. The Wisdom Council takes on the issue and can come up with unanimous choices that and present to the community, and the whole community can look around the room and say, yeah, we want to act in this in a way that protects what we've got and serves life, and we'll all act together. So there's really, it gives another action, another possibility that all of us acting together can make a monster difference. And so I want the Wisdom Council process to be in place at all these different levels, where we are making good collective choices about education in our state and in the the climate change at the nation, at the global level, and all these different levels have different choices that we need to be made, and we need a way to make the kind of mind shift choices that are not possible in our current political system or economic system.